Welcome to the Scoop Roller. Happy Monday. Huge day for Michigan football, Ohio State football. Connor Stalions documentary is coming out. We're going to break all of that down. As always, we appreciate you guys being a part of the #1 Ohio State podcast in existence. Thank you for all that you guys do. This will be a huge show because you guys make one. If you guys enjoy this content, please leave us a like, click subscribe. Also click that little alert bell. Again, we're growing like crazy because of what you guys do. So thank you for all that you do. As always, we appreciate you guys so very much. But with that being said, this will be a little bit of a quicker show, but it'll be a great show because you guys make it a great show. Nevada, this was kind of a spicy deal where all of a sudden Connor Stalions is coming out with a Netflix documentary detailing what he knew on the sign stealing. You have extensive, industry ties, and you've also produced documentaries. You know what the pay rate is on a documentary. What was your initial reaction when you figured out that Netflix is going to pay Connor Stalions to kind of sing like a canary, tell what he knew about Michigan and the sign stealing? How do you think this is going to go? Again, I have a very low bar. I imagine he demanded some sort of a final cut authority where he could kind of, talk about this is real, this is fake, this didn't happen, this did happen. Similar to Swamp King's The Urban Meyer documentary, where Urban made a lot of things a lot more polished than they probably were in real life. But what was your reaction to the Connor Stalions documentary?
Well, I think what you have to remember is, let's just kind of take documentary 101. Netflix has about 200 million subscribers on Netflix, and about 70% of those are outside of the United States. So when you're talking about a sports documentary in general, now all of a sudden you're kind of going towards a more micro audience. That's why sports documentaries have always been so traditionally hard to sell. Other than, that's what made 30 for 30 on ESPN so notable, is that they would do sports, sports movies generally don't sell well because they don't travel well to foreign territories. And whenever you're selling anything in the entertainment business, you always have to think about the foreign markets. You have to think about, obviously, the United States is a primary market, but you've got to think about China. You've got to think about India. You've got to think about all the foreign markets and say, will they understand what this is about? And so the first question is, how many people overseas are going to be interested in a documentary about American football, specifically about college football, specifically about Michigan football and science center? It's not big. So this is not going to be a, I would probably say that the license fee that the entire production company is getting for this is probably $500,000. So I think that Connor Stalions has got final cut authority? No. Connor Stalions is not Tom Cruise or anything like that. Connor Stalions is going to be he's going to be the Geppetto. He'll probably get 50 grand or something like that to be in this. But I think it's, for Connor Stalions, the calculus is really simple. He's going to try to go out and spin his story before this letter of allegation hits from the NCAA. And he'll come out, and what he'll say, and what I expect him to say, and what people expect him to say in the industry is, oh, everybody's doing this. Oh, we found a piece of paper from Ohio State showing that they were stealing our signs. Oh, nobody knew what I was doing, so I just did it, and I told them that I was just really good at doing it, and they believed me, and nobody knew. So I expect the whole thing to be pretty hokey, but what will be interesting is what's the production company's slant on this? I know what Connor Stalions' slant's going to be on this, but will the production company, because I don't think that Connor Stalions is very smart. I've said that from day one. I don't think he's some evil genius. I don't think this guy is a very intelligent dude. So he may go out starring in this thing, thinking that he's going to get his story out. But a lot of times, the documentary company will have their own take on it. And it may or may not be consistent with what Connor Stalions wants to say. So I think, to me, that's what's most interesting about this is, who is the documentary film company behind this? What is their take on it? What are they trying to do on it? Because Connor may be think he's zooming them, and he may be getting zoomed. This may be like Bret Hart in the famous Montreal Screwjob, where he gave up the belt in World Wrestling there inadvertently. I'm going to be interested to see if Connor Stalions goes out there, tells his story, but then the documentary company makes him look stupid and puts this thing out. To me, that would be a much more interesting approach on this thing, because Connor Stalions is going to go out and try to whitewash the whole thing, and what he's going to say is going to be complete pablum. But what the entertainment company says could be completely different, and I think that's what will make this thing worth watching.
Is it a double-edged sword? Again, you've produced multiple documentaries, multiple major films in your life. You've had a lot of conversations about working, figuring out who gets what kind of say in something like this. Because if I'm Connor Stalions, the one thing I want to do is never talk. I mean, don't say a word. He's like Henry Hill when he's in court and he doesn't sing like a canary and he takes the charge like a man. Like, if I was Connor, I wouldn't say a word. I'd realize that my coaching career is over, and I would pray that some rich Michigan donor would have mercy on my soul and hire me. But, I think that from a two-way perspective, it seems like, if I'm documentary company and Connor Stalions is on this side, it's like there's like this kind of tug of war where if I'm filming this documentary, I'm trying to extract new information from Connor to have him give up the goat and say, hey, you did this, clearly illegal, Michigan gets boomed. And then on the flip, there's Connor who's saying, well, I didn't know, and Jesse Minter didn't know, and Jim Harbaugh didn't know. And again, maybe I'm reading this completely wrong, because if I'm in his shoes and someone says, hey, we'll pay you $100,000 to do a documentary, whatever, I'd say, well, I didn't know what I was doing. I was just reading the regular film. I was watching the signals from the sideline during the game, whatever. But to me, I think that is fascinating, that you've got two sides that are literally because like this documentary company, they're trying to make bank for their buck. Again, they've got a return on investment. If they're going to pay Connor $100,000 or $150,000 or whatever, like they want to make, $1 million and say, hey, look, we did this and it was really successful. And, the name of the documentary, it's a series called Untold, and they've done exceptionally good work. Like they did one called Malice in the Palace when it was the Pistons versus the Indiana Pacers, and they interviewed Ben Wallace and Steven Jackson and Ron Artest and Jermaine O'Neal, kind of the whole crew that was involved in that. And they really do a good job of showing a lot of angles, because again, like when you're initially seeing something crazy like the Malice in the Palace, where the Indiana Pacer players went up in the stands and were fighting with they went up in the stands and they're fighting with the patrons that threw beers and were punching them and stuff. Like, it's very one-sided, because obviously those guys look like morons when they're fighting fans, but it was kind of it had a lot of good backstory. It kind of showed all the other storylines and whatever. So I think that this is a crew that they're going to want to dig into this a little bit deeper than I think, Connor Stalions might have wanted. Now, again, you are the guy that I would, if we're talking documentaries, talking filmmaking, talking final say, like you're the guy that I would say, okay, Nevada, like, you've done these, what the going rate is, again, you think of things that are way above my head, because I've never had to budget one of these or hire people for one of these and say, well, how's this going to play in Europe? How's it going to play in Asia? How's it going to play, in the East, where frankly nobody cares about football? Is this going to be just a shock and awe campaign where people watch it one time? Again, this really, what it reminds me of is the Bishop Sycamore documentary that HBO did, where it's a one-time watch, and oh wow, these kids are staying at a Motel 6 and they weren't really in school when they were 25 years old playing versus high schoolers, and the whole smorgasbord. But that's like a one-time shock and awe type hit, but it's not a, man, I want to watch that Bishop Sycamore documentary again. Like, I watched it one time and I was like, okay, I'm good. I need to go take a shower because it was so stupid and dumb. And, we had, Jay Richardson and, some guys that were involved. It was the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life, that you had a bunch of these postgraduate kids playing in these games versus IMG, and it was gross. But I think that's what the Stallions thing is not going to be some box office smash where, it's not like you're watching Casino or Goodfellas where you want to rewatch it and sit down and have an iced tea and watch it again. Like, this is going to be, I think it's going to be very different. But do you think at the end of this, again, you've been the expert on all this. At the end of the day, is Connor Stalions going to come out of this looking better or worse in your estimation? Again, you've been a guy who's been the head of a production company. You've had to set the budgets and hire the talent, the whole nine. What's your opinion on that?
I think he's going to look worse. I mean, I really think he's going to. I mean, look, there was a famous book, a little different off topic a little bit, but I'll kind of draw a nexus. There was a famous case with a Green Beret named Jeffrey McDonald, where he claims some people broke in his house and killed his wife and his family. And so he asked this guy to write a book on him. And so the guy wrote the book on him. And, as he's writing the book, he comes to the determination that this guy's guilty. And the book is called Fatal Vision. And he writes the book about him, basically saying, hey, I think this guy's guilty. But when Jeffrey McDonald was cooperating, he thought the guy was like going to be snowed. So I think that's just going to happen with Stalions with this, because Stalions does not have final cut authority. He's just talent. I mean, this company's looking for these different stories to kind of go as part of this series. They're going to him and saying, "Hey, Connor, this is your chance to kind of do your thing." I think he's going to look like a jamoke. That's what I personally think is going to happen, because he is a jamoke. I mean, how do you explain away things like, "Well, Connor, were you on the sidelines at the Central Michigan game?" No, that wasn't me. And what's he gonna do? Or is he gonna be, yeah, that was me, but I was just there to see a friend, and I didn't have spy. I mean, I'm telling you, Connor Stalions is gonna think he's getting over on this thing, and I don't. I think he's gonna look like a jamoke. I think these guys, anybody who can produce documentaries for Netflix, like Malice in the Palace, and do other things where they can, do things at a high end. Produce them well, award winning. They're not going to get snowed by Connor Stalions. And Connor Stalions clearly thinks he's the smartest guy in the room. This is a guy who manufactured the Michigan Manifesto. I mean, just the fact that he's agreeing to do this while there's an ongoing NCAA investigation about this just shows how dumb he is. Because it's like when you're involved in a police matter or some sort. Like, the first thing you do is shut up. You don't say anything, because anything you say is not going to help you. There's no way that you're going to go out there and say stuff and it's going to help your case. And in this case, I think Connor Stalions is making a big mistake by doing this. But I think he thinks he's the smartest guy in the room, so he's going to go out there and tell the story. But I think they're going to turn it on him, and I think he's going to look like I think he's going to look like a fool personally. But you never know. When they say, I always say, nobody sets out to make a bad movie, but a lot of people end up making them. So you're never sure what this thing's going to end up being. But I would bet, if I just had a hunch, I'd bet that this is, it's going to be Connor out there talking about how he's this innocent little, whatever. And I think it's going to be damning for him, and certainly damning for Michigan. And regardless of it, regardless of their spin, their take, whatever point of view they do, this is going to completely tick off the NCAA. You are thumbing your nose in, you're flipping off the NCAA, and flipping off bureaucrats when they, hold your proverbial life in your hands is never a good idea. For Connor Stalions, he feels like he's out of their purview, so he can do it. But somebody's going to pay the price for that one, and Connor skipped out of the bill, but somebody else is going to pay the price. And I think this was ill-advised. But the entire venture was ill-advised. So, what else is new?
Well, I think it's a cheap ploy to try to clear your name. But, at the end of this thing, this documentary company, especially if as you project, he will not get final say in what's said. Like, I don't think it's going to make him look better. Again, when I watched the Bishop Sycamore documentary on HBO, which, again, a lot of you guys know Bishop Sycamore was a kind of a fake high school that had kids that were 19 years old, 20 years old playing versus high schoolers, and they played IMG on ESPN. Like, when I watched that, Roy Johnson, who was, the guy that was the coach and the engineer, and Jay Richardson was his best friend and business partner, like, they looked terrible when it was all done. Like, I mean, and again, he's getting interviewed. He's trying to be slick. He's trying to basically, explain why he did what he did. Oh, well, you're allowed to have a prep school with 20-year-olds, and we had this deal with this academy where they were going to teach them postgraduate, and we had this deal with this hotel that, he got sued by everybody and their mother because he skipped out on every building event. Like, he had a bunch of kids living in hotels, and he skipped out on hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of deals. And, like Jay Richardson was one of the guys who was part of that, and Roy Johnson and the whole crew. And like, I think that Roy, Jay wasn't on the documentary, but Roy was on it, and he was trying to explain everything. And I thought he looked terrible by the time it was done. So I'm like, you really believe that people are going to believe this, like what you're saying? And most of the folks are really sharp. So when they're sitting there watching this Connor Stalions documentary, he's like, well, I didn't know that I was stealing signs. I didn't know that I wasn't allowed to go to the Central Michigan game. Oh, I didn't know that I wasn't allowed to have stringers, record the signals, and Jim Harbaugh never knew and whatever. Because like, I think what he's gonna do in a very ham-handed way is try to act like, oh, they didn't know what I was doing, they didn't know what I knew. I never told them that we had all of these extra stringers going along capturing the signals, and we were splicing with the film where every play we could like say, well, this is a signal, this is the play. Because once he did that, which he did that, and he wasn't like some sort of like evil genius or some sort of 007 of college football. It was just more like it's like flashcards where you say, okay, this is the signal, this is the running play, this is the passing play, whatever. I mean, once you have all that information, you can decipher pretty quickly. But I think that when this is all said and done, he'll look terrible. And again, I know that he's Mr. Michigan and Mr. whatever, but I think that part of him thinks he's the slickest guy in the room, so he thinks he'll skate. And I think the other part is like, most of the people that he loves are gone. Like Jesse Minter's gone, Jim Harbaugh's gone. So there's not many guys that'll get nailed to the cross if this comes off terribly, which I think it will. Again, during an investigation, like as Nevada said, the one thing you shouldn't do is talk, sing like a canary, and it'll be fascinating to see how much of that we see. Because again, I was shocked when this got announced, and we had other topics to talk about, but I was like, with our constituents and the people that know that we've been so far ahead of the curve on the Michigan stuff, it's almost been gross. So we almost like in a mandatory, we had to talk about this Connor Stalions documentary, because I think it's going to be, I think it's going to be damaging for Michigan. I really do. I don't think it's going to be something where they're going to look back and say, oh, well, he didn't know what he was doing and whatever. It's like,
Kirk, here's my question for you. You watched the Bishop Sycamore one. I did not watch the Bishop Sycamore one. Those guys participated in that documentary. Why do you think they participated in that documentary? Because they got a few dollars and because they thought it would make them look good. They could explain it away, right? Now, did you leave that documentary convinced that those guys were on the up and up and they were and that they were caught up in something that was beyond them and they didn't do anything wrong? Or did you leave the thing thinking they were a bunch of shysters?
No, I know they're a bunch of shysters. I mean, it was Roy Johnson, Jay Richardson, and then his one buddy, like literally, and this is a true story. It wasn't Roy, it wasn't Jay, but their third partner, who I didn't see in the documentary, literally said, we're going to do another Bishop Sycamore with a new name. And we've got Hulu signed on to produce the documentary for the season. And we've got Netflix signed on to do like kind of the post-mortem. And I was like, so wait. I was like, you guys went through all that. You guys got crucified for being scam artists, which they are. And now you guys are just going to do a new school under a new name. He's like, yeah. And he's like, would you want to interview us? And I was like, not really. I mean, you guys, for one, like I'll get 500 views on that as opposed to our normal 10,000. And for two, I'm like, you guys didn't learn your lesson that you're not supposed to scam kids and the government and sell this dream of, oh, well, if you come with us for your prep year in 19, as a kind of like a fake JUCO-ish type thing, and we play IMG and St. Ignatius and these schools, like, I mean, and again, this was in the last 2 weeks, and I was sitting there and I was just like, you guys are going to run that back? Oh yeah, we've got documentary deals. And I was like, That ain't good. I mean, again, like obviously you guys didn't learn your lesson, and it's a good way to, kind of scam kids so that you guys can make a few extra dollars. Because again, he told me, he's like, I called Jay Richardson to see what was up with it, and Jay didn't respond. Thank God Jay learned his lesson after dealing with Roy. But those guys, they're scam artists. And again, like Roy Johnson, like if you watch that HBO documentary, there isn't a human on this earth that has a brain that will come out of the thing and say, oh, Roy was doing the right thing. Roy was, virtuous and forthright. And again, I don't have a bone to pick, but I also, we're here for the folks. We're here to make sure that you guys know what's really going on, and that's what our gig is. So, I was shocked they're going to run that back. So, for Connor Stalions to do a documentary during an active investigation, it makes me think he's going to try to be slicker than the average and try to get through all of the allegations, and I'm going to start a new school and I'm going to run it back. But I don't know. Like I said, he hasn't been hired by anybody, and he's probably persona non grata because, if he signs with the LA Chargers or with Michigan or any other school, like it'll be such a media event that I don't think anybody else would deal with that. So now he's going to come out and try to clear his name, and I think it'll be just like a cacophony of just stupidity when it all comes out, because you can't do what they did at the level they did and then just act like you're innocent. Like, you can't rob the bank and say, oh, well, I never robbed the bank, and let's do a documentary about me not robbing the bank. I was like, well, here's a photo of you robbing the bank, and here's the photo of you, put your money into a different, bank account and whatever. But that's kind of where it's at. I mean, it's so grossly mismanaged. I can't believe it, but Netflix is in the business of creating content, making money, and I'll watch it. I can't wait to watch it because I think it'll make him look like a complete moron. What are your thoughts about it? We'll get into some super chats.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely going to watch it, just because I do enjoy train wrecks, and this is going to be colossal because you just can't. There's no way to defend it. I've gamed this in my mind a million times, and I'm like, what could he possibly say, or what could anybody possibly say that would make somebody like nod their head and go, oh, okay, I hadn't really considered that. I mean, everything was like they didn't find some loophole. This isn't a gray area. Hiring third parties that didn't work for the school, that isn't a loophole. They didn't discover the secret sauce. No, not everybody does this, which are all the things that they're going to say. And I just think Connor Stalions is a classic guy that just thinks he's smarter than he is. And this is exactly, you ask yourself, who are the people that go on documentaries in the middle of an active investigation? People that think they're smarter than they are. People that think they can just con everybody and can do this and make the Michigan people love them even more, because that's what Connor Stalions is from now on. I mean, he's kind of a chew toy for Michigan fans, and he'll be like the Hawk Tua girl or whatever it is, and go out there and do Michigan bar openings or something like that. But will he do anything in sports? No. Is he a punchline? Yes. Do Michigan fans care? No, because he helped them break the string. I mean, they lost 14 of 15 or whatever it was, and so he got them there. So for them, it was all worth it. But this documentary, I think it's going to make it much worse for Michigan, and I can't wait.
Totally agree. We'll go to our first super chat. Poohbeard12, thanks for being an ultra member. Appreciate you, brother, as always. Thank you for the 5. I doubt there is anything in that documentary that could possibly help the cheaters of North case or standing with the NCAA. If anything, this could make things worse. I mean, again, I've said this, and Pooh Beard, I appreciate you. You're one of the best posters we've ever had on here, and one of the best posters on BuckeyeScoop.com. But there's nothing good that will come from this. This is a cash grab by Connor, who's unemployed right now, to our knowledge, unless some Michigan donors got him cleaning their toilets or sweeping the goose turds out of a swimming pool. Like, this guy's unemployed, so he probably got floated $100,000 to do a documentary, and he's like, well, I can do this and clear my name and sing like a canary. And I don't think it helps his case, because at the end of the day, when you are doing a case like this, I think that it's very important to stay underground. Like, stay cool, chill. I'm sure he has some sort of an attorney. I don't know if it's a quack or if it's a public defendant or whatever, but I know one thing. I've been around millionaire attorneys. I've had, my little deals where I've hired excellent legal counsel. They would never say, hey, Kirk, in the middle of our case, let's go do a documentary and talk about stuff. Like that would never be. People that have brains would say, stay low, stay undercover, be quiet, take your lumps and whatever, your contrition, whatever. But like what Connor's doing with this documentary is the opposite. Like I would never, ever talk to a documentary crew. And because, if he doesn't have final say and he says something crazy, like that's going to be the soundbite that could bury Michigan. And again, he's not employed in football anymore. Like his dream was to be a position coach, a coordinator, a head coach, run his own program. Those dreams all died last year when he got pinched and was forced out and the rest. And then you've seen all of the coaches that have left Michigan. Most of them went to the LA Chargers. Some didn't surface anywhere, like Mike Hart and the linebackers coach. So I think it'll be fascinating. Nevada, Pooh Beard 12. Again, I appreciate you, brother. Thanks for being ultra everything for the 5. He says, I doubt there's anything in that documentary that could possibly help Michigan or their case with the NCAA. If anything, it could make things worse. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I would welcome anybody to post something that they think. I mean, just come up with the craziest scenario, whatever it might be. Come up with the craziest scenario, whatever the point of view would be that would somehow, vindicate Michigan, vindicate Connor Stallions. The only thing he can say is they didn't know, and so he'll try to whitewash it that they didn't know. They thought I was just a savant. They didn't know I was taping. They didn't know I was paying. Everybody didn't know. They just thought I was really, really good at the sign stealing stuff, and it'll just be interesting to see how much the production companies wanted to kind of play along with that, and in terms of letting them kind of go on there in terms of saying that stuff. It'll be interesting to see if they even touch on the Central Michigan things, because that's the kind of stuff that kind of flies in the face of all of that. If you were just so good, what were you doing disguised as a Central Michigan coach on the sideline? How did you slip away from your Michigan job the night before a game? I mean, so many questions to be asked and answered. So yeah, I can't think of a single thing, and I can think of so much of this that's just going to be not helpful for Michigan. I mean, when he gets into any of the details of this, it's basically going to lay out I mean, there's no way they did a documentary with him in it where he doesn't say anything, where he just, he's not going to get up and go, I didn't do this. I didn't do any of this. I didn't hire 38 people. They didn't really tape. I mean, he's going to have to say something. Otherwise, they couldn't have sold this documentary. So there's going to be at least one soundbite in there that's not going to be helpful for Michigan. I think the entire thing is not going to be helpful for Michigan. But again, Connor Stallions is not the sharpest tool in the drawer. So him doing this is totally unsurprising to me.
Yeah, it's shocking. And again, I'm going to pull back to an article, and this is from October 20th, Yahoo. Because some of you guys, I think, need freshened up a little bit. So this is from Yahoo Sports. Big Ten opponents were aware of, quote, elaborate scheme, and Michigan assisted at the center of it. So this is, again, from this is from Friday, October 20th, 2023. But when you read this, it says, Michigan hat tugged low, dressed in all blue, gripping a white police sheet. Or is it? The Wolverines analyst and Naval Academy graduate paces the sideline behind more prominent coaches Jim Harbaugh and defensive coordinator Jesse Minter. At various points, Connor Stallions would make a signal, point to his shoulder, gesture to the ground, tap his head. He was in constant communication with the full-time assistants around him, whispering to them as the opposing offense broke the huddle. And again, this is from a source, but he says he spearheads the operation. One Big Ten coach told Yahoo Sports in an interview Thursday, I once told Stallions, what kind of exclamation point, you are doing, and it's effed up. And then the next line is multiple Big Ten staff members identified Stallions as Michigan's sign stealing guru after the school was insnared Thursday in an NCAA investigation. ESPN reported late Thursday night the investigation was focusing on Stallions, who joined the Michigan staff in spring of 2022 as a recruiting analyst. Now, mind you, that was kind of when Michigan turned everything around and started grinding, and they became much better. Stallions was subsequently suspended by Michigan with pay, which is hilarious. He was not suspended without pay. Since his name emerged, Stallions scrubbed his social media, deleted his Instagram, his Twitter, everything. So again, if you're not guilty, why are you deleting all of your social media is what you did. And then another Big Ten coach says, we were told to be careful because they have a guy that can pick our plays. It was too late in the week to change our signals, but another staff did tell us about Stallions. So this was well known in the Big Ten. And again, I'm only refreshing this because I think that sometimes we go through what was going on, and I think people, because of fatigue or because of how long it's been that this has been going on, they don't realize the brevity of this thing. But here's photos of him on the sideline, right next to Harbaugh, right next to Jesse Minter, right next to Sharon Moore, literally right next to all of the play callers in the game. So it's something I think is going to be absolutely fascinating to see how it keeps going forward, because I think that he's going to get cooked. And again, I think he's trying to be slick. I think that he's unemployed, and the only guy that's going to employ him right now is some major Michigan donor that might employ him just as a kind of to say, I've got this little troll, this little hobby guy who's around my program and around doing whatever. So it'll be interesting. We have another super chat, Nevada. Larry Daniels, one, thank you for being off. Thank you for the 5. Appreciate you, my friend. Nevada, the real question is who cornered the used vacuum market in Ann Arbor after Stallions left Nevada OH?
I
don't know, Nevada, because I've never ordered a vacuum except from Best Buy. So do you know who cornered the used vacuum market in Ann Arbor?
Well, look, just that whole thing of him being involved in an LLC with Mike Hart, which is again a blatant violation of rules.
Blake Corum.
Blake Corum. I'm Mike. Yeah, Blake. I'm sorry, Mike.
Same thing.
Same thing. Blake Corum, and the fact that just kind of got washed out. It's all of a sudden Blake Corum just gets up there and goes, "No, I wasn't involved, and I don't know why I was on there." And then nobody has the intellectual curiosity to follow up on that and ask a question. Wait a second. So he just put your name on an LLC and said you owned a third of this company that you didn't know anything about. I mean, I know that media is dead in 2024, but come on, that's a big story. I mean, you're talking about somebody potentially affecting the eligibility of Corum. In my view, I mean that made him an ineligible player. The fact that his name was on that, if somehow he's going to have to explain why either Connor Stalions committed a federal offense, mistaking he's on LLC, or Blake Corum was lying. But one of those two things is true, and we're not sure which one. But it seemed to me that it would be really odd that Blake Corum wasn't aware of him being in there. And yeah, this whole vacuum cleaning. So I mean, it wasn't the name of the company too, on some car that Blake Corum was posing with, and I mean, this whole it's just there's so many elements. I mean, a great documentary of this would be fabulous. It's just a question of whether or not this is going to be the one. Is this going to be the one that actually digs a little deeper, asks some tough questions? It's probably going to be 60, 65, 70 minutes. So there's just no way they can just let Stallions just babble on and do it. They've got to ask some tough questions. I imagine they have to, and if they do, I certainly hope that's a factor in there, because that has gotten virtually no run, and to me that's I wouldn't say it's as big as the other story, because the other story, let's say you're talking about on-field cheating that directly affects the outcome of games. There can't be anything bigger than it. Just can't. It doesn't get any bigger than that. I mean, the only thing that would be bigger than that would be if you could prove that you had bribed officials or something like that. I think that'd be the only thing that could possibly be bigger than this. But the Stallions used vacuum cleaning, Blake Corum owning 50% of my LLC thing. Yeah, I hope they dig into that because yeah, we these are questions that need to be answered for sure.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm digging into the vacuum thing because he got turned into the like his homeowners association because he had a bunch of used vacuums sitting on his porch, which is amazing. And then
God.
and the name of the business was like BC2 like cleaning, which is like Blake Corum 2 like vacuums or whatever. So it it's interesting because like you said, it's a federal offense. Like we can't list that Elon Musk is a part owner in Buckeye Scoop without there being some sort of a federal involvement. You can't just list random people on your LLC because again, obviously you're getting into some pretty deep water and you say, well, this guy's involved in it. And but again, Michigan Daily said, I have no business with them. Blake Corum denies involvement in Wyoming LLC linked to Connor Stallions, where it was literally like, the BC2, whatever LLC. There it is, BC2 Housing, which is the same BC2 that has some NIL merchandise came to be. And did Connor Stallions forge that? I would guess not. I would think Connor, like he probably pitched it to Blake Corum today. Let us use your name. We'll feather you thousands of dollars just from using your name. But he filed it all, and they're selling used, old, misappropriated vacuums, which is hilarious to me because, I guess why not? But it was an amazing little caper there, and I would bet a lot of money that Blake Corum knew all about it, and yeah, I'll take some mailbox money for you refurbishing old, vacuums and selling them, and just pay me my money. But it was pretty interesting because again, like you've got literally the best player on Michigan's team, the guy that was closest to being a Heisman Trophy candidate, in this crazy, I don't want to say it's a scam, because people can buy a used vacuum and whatever, but he had used vacuums all across his porch, and his homeowners association literally, turned them off. They said, you can't be having 50 used vacuums. Good.
Who buys used vacuum? I mean,
I don't know. Like again, I'm not trying to be like Mr. I buy brand new vacuum guy, but
no, but
I've never looked at like a used vacuum and a guy that is like selling a used vacuum that's not even like clean, and it's just like it's almost too good to be true because it's like one of those things where like people that like flip houses for a living, they can make a fortune, they make millions of dollars flipping houses, but like when you're buying some of these houses, like it's a lot of work, and it's a lot of you got to know the right ones, and you don't want to be stuck on the bag. So I'm sure at some point when Connor Stallions was sitting in his underwear at 3 a.m, he was eating Totino's pizza rolls, and he's sitting there watching, and he's like, hey, you know how you can get rich quick? And ooh, how? He ordered the little series where it's like you can buy used vacuums and refurbish them, which is like clean the filter out and dust them off and put a little bit of wipe the crust out of their eyes, and you can sell them on Amazon, and you can ship them and drop ship them. And I know friends that are big Amazon drop shippers, and that's like, hey, you can make all this money on this used merchandise. I'm like, yeah, but I don't want that, and I'm not touching it, whatever. So he has some sort of a hairpin scheme where, again, when he's making 50 grand a year and he's working 1,000 hours, and he's like, well, if I put Blake Corum's name on it, then maybe we can juice it up and do really good because people will just want to support Blake. So I think that's kind of the genesis of it. Again, I don't know who buys a used. I mean, it's like buying a used trash bag. Who buys a used vacuum? But I don't judge if somebody does. But I think that he saw a way to get rich quick or get a little bit of cash flow going.
But I mean, again, the used vacuum business, like what's the market for used vacuum? I mean, like vacuums aren't that expensive. It's not like vacuums, like you can get. I understand. Like, no, I'm not against used anything. Like, buy a used car. There's lots of things you can do that you can buy used that makes a lot of sense. But a used vacuum, I just don't. I mean, I wish that I could say that was like the big idea. That's not like artificial intelligence or nanotechnology or something. I mean, used vacuum. There's a reason why people don't sell used vacuums. It's because it's a dumb idea. And for a guy that's working so hard on his day job, trying to impress Jim Harbaugh and become the master of the domain of Michigan and the next guy to coach, for him to do that, I just have to believe, and this is total speculation, that it was some way of moving money or doing something. It had to have something, because I just can't believe that there were like real customers of any number buying used vacuums. Now, again, maybe I'm crazy. Maybe there's a huge business doing that. Some huge underground market of used vacuums that I'm not aware of. But boy, that one sure seems fishy that guy was involved at that. And that, again, pure speculation, but I'm speculating.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like a way to wash money. Like somewhere
Yeah.
it's like, well, give me 50 used, Hoovers or whatever. And I mean, because like you said, the problem with like a used vacuum is like buying a brand new one out of the box isn't that much more expensive. Like it's like if you buy like a used TV and it's like $1,000, but the brand new one is $1,200. It's like
Yeah, exactly.
$200 is $200 a lot of money, but to get the one that hasn't been kicked or thrown down a flight of stairs or hasn't been in a flood that you don't know about or whatever, like and I'm being like over the top, but it's like for my peace of mind, like to spend a little bit more to get a brand new one, get it installed. It hasn't been they haven't thrown it off a cliff or whatever. It might look great, but again, I deal with claims all the time where people get their oh, well, this house was salvaged and they took this out of this house. I'm like, well, is it corroded or the wires corroded? Like, is it really is the juice worth the squeeze when you buy something from a salvage sale or some sort of a return thing or whatever? And again, some of them are. Like, I bought a really nice computer that was a return item that was like brand new, worked great, whatever. But like a vacuum, it's like if you buy a used one, it's going to cost $300. A new one will cost $400. So it's like, at the end of the day, do I really want to use a vacuum that has never been cleaned and might crap out on me? And again, when you buy something used, like you don't get a warranty with it. Not if you buy it at Connor Stalions Blake Corum LLC. If you buy it at Best Buy or whatever, that's different. But if you're buying a secondhand for some just jamoke, on his porch steps in Ann Arbor, like it ain't gonna be quite as kosher. So that's why, I always thought it was some sort of a front for laundry. And again, some of the stuff they did was kind of the pre-NIL era. So it seemed like, if a donor wanted to, hey, I'll give you 50 grand for those 10 things and you can funnel it to Blake. And again, that's pure speculation. But, pre-NIL, like that'd be, oh yeah, I wanted to support his business. What's his business? Oh, used vacuums. So I bought 1,000 of them and I paid him this much money and they can deliver it whenever they need to, whatever. So, because it doesn't make sense otherwise why Blake Corum would, because again, Blake Corum knew about that. Like this kid didn't just randomly put his name on it and potentially cost him his career, because this kid wanted to be a football coach. He wanted to be, the head coach at Michigan. So he's not just going to put Blake Corum's name on an LLC and get his toaster strudel cooked before he could actually have like a real career in coaching, because that was the trajectory that he was on. Again, he was an asset to the defensive coordinator, the offensive coordinator, Jim Harbaugh. So that's the kind of guy that you keep around, you pay more money to, you create a position for him, and you let him kind of blossom. And if he becomes great, then let him be a position coach one day and let him make some real money. So we got another super chat, Nevada. Schaefer Healthcare. Again, I appreciate you for the 20. Thank you, my friend. My friend's father-in-law is a very high-up member of the Michigan coaching staff. He said he's not impressed with their team at all this offseason camp. He thinks Ohio State is going to win it all. Go Bucks. Nevada, your thoughts on that?
Well, I think any right-thinking person is looking at Michigan and kind of going, look, we lost 97% of our offensive production. That places us like 130th out of college teams in terms of returning offensive production. We lost all of our staff, our coordinators, our head coach, our strength and conditioning coach. We can't, and we lost Jim Harbaugh, who, like him or not, was a really accomplished, football coach. And I think, Sharon Moore if it was easy to do, everybody would be a head football coach, and it's not. And we've seen so many programs that go to the next guy and they think the program's going to just keep on cooking, and it always fails. It's been, like clockwork. Go down the list: USC, Nebraska, Florida State, Florida, Miami, Texas. I mean, and just Washington, right down the list of guys, and it just doesn't work. So I think for Michigan this year, I think they're going to fall on hard times. Yes, they've got some good players, but not enough, and they don't have any depth, and they don't have the key position at quarterback to bail them out. They don't have the offensive line to bail them out. They don't have the head coach to bail them out. And their defense will be good enough to keep them in some games. But, like I said, I've got 7-5 on the bottom end. I've got 9-3 on the top end. And I'm telling you, this is as good as it's going to be for a long time at Michigan. I don't think they'll be above 9-3. Maybe I don't want to make crazy points, but at least for the next 5 to 10 years, I don't think they'll be above 9-3. I think, especially with as hard as the Big Ten's getting with these new teams coming in, I think Michigan's really, really, really gonna struggle, and so they better enjoy this year, because I don't think it's gonna get any better than this.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think it's going to be ugly. I think that, Jim Harbaugh to me is a Hall of Fame coach. I mean, he's the guy who's one of the best coaches. I mean, he's done a great job at the NFL level, the college level. He struggled versus Urban, because Urban was a different animal than Ryan Day, and I think he's a guy that's going to be missed. I think that, when you go from him to Sharon Moore, who's never coached in his life, there are going to be incredible growing pains. Jim Harbaugh is the guy that coached. He made Stanford good. Making Stanford a good football program is as hard of a thing to do as there is in college football, because you're dealing with kids that are 4.0 valedictorians. And I know you can float some kids in there and get some kids that might be 3.0 inner city kids or whatever, but it's hard to make Stanford good and competitive and tough, and he did. He beat USC. Again, my senior year, he beat USC when they had Sam Baker and Fred Davis and John David Booty and kind of the whole 9 yards, and he beat them. They were like 38-point underdogs, and they went to the Coliseum and won. So, I've always had respect for him. I know people hate him because he's a Michigan guy, but he's a good coach. And again, the Chargers didn't pay him $25 million a year to leave, and for over 5 years to just go out there and suck. So, Sharon Moore has got big shoes to fill. Again, when Sharon beat Penn State and Ohio State last year, he coached 1 day of the week. Jim Harbaugh was coaching up until they had to go to the stadium. So, he was able to basically do everything except call the plays and kind of run the game. And I think that the team was overaged. They had like 40 seniors, which is crazy. So I think that the regression is going to be real. 5 new starters on the O-line, new quarterback, Donovan Edwards, who I think is like a 4th or 5th round pick in the draft, maybe, if he runs great. He's just a guy. Double team Colson Loveland on offense. They've got 2 great defensive tackles. They'll be good on defense. They're not going to be great, but they'll be good. But I think that they're very, very beatable. They're very vulnerable. They've got dealing with winning a national championship, which again, it's hard to repeat winning a national championship, and it's hard when you've been stroked for basically 9 months before your first game about how great you are and how Michigan's back and whatever. So that is a dynamic that Sharon Moore is going to have to deal with, even though he's never been a head coach, is that he took over a team that just won the Natty. So they might not be as hungry. So I think it'll be fascinating to see how that all goes down. I got another super chat. Tyler Kersey, appreciate you, bud. Thank you for the 5. Kirk, Nevada, what excuses will be the new excuses from Michigan, from their fans when Science tells the truth? Also, Nevada OH. Nevada, Connor Science is not going to tell the truth. I would be stunned. I think this is going to be something to frame him in the right, which is, anyone with a brain knows he's going to get cooked. But what are your thoughts on that? Again, what excuses will be made, the new Michigan excuses, when the fans hear Connor Science tell the truth. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't. He can't tell the truth. He owns the lie so much right now, and the story's just going to be the lone wolf. The lone wolf story, the lone wolf savant. I did it by myself. Nobody knew what I was doing. They thought I was just really good at it, and nobody had any idea. And Jim Harbaugh would have fired me on the spot if he knew what I was doing. I'm so sorry, Michigan, but I just love Michigan. But I was doing it on my own, and nobody knew what I was doing. That is going to be the thing. It just how do you do 68 minutes of that? That'll be interesting. But I don't think Connor Stalions is capable of telling the truth. If he tells the truth, it'll be by accident. So we'll see. I always reserve the right to change my mind, but I think this guy's going to get up there and lie. And the thing is, we'll all know he's lying. We'll go and
Yeah.
we'll have a every time he lies, we'll take a shot or something like that. We'll do some live watching party or something like that.
You don't want that smoke. I outweigh you by double your weight. So you don't want to be throwing shots to me. You can drink all your little vodka tonics you want, man, but you don't want to roll.
Yeah.
You don't roll against the blue whale versus the sperm whale. You don't want that smoke. I'm just telling you. But yeah, I think it's going to be. It'll be interesting because I think the problem with Connor Stalions, he's like a lot of these Michigan guys. I think that they all think they're slick, and they're not. And again, if these compliance guys bumble this, like Marshall Clark did with the O.J. Simpson case, then God have mercy on their souls, because this is the layup of layups. Because again, you could go Nevada and I don't have a horse in this fight. We're not like, oh, if Michigan wins, we hit the jackpot, or if they don't win, we don't get the jackpot, whatever. But like, listen to what James Franklin said. Listen to what Greg Schiano said. Listen to what I've talked to probably 15 coaches in the Big Ten that knew that they were sign stealing. They knew that there was something fishy going on. They knew that a lot of times Michigan's defensive calls were just a little bit too perfect. It was almost like when if I'm playing Madden against my kid and I can watch them hit the square button on the PlayStation and I say that, oh, that's an inside run to the middle. And I say, oh, I'm going to call, all out, engage 8 blitz to kill everything in the middle. And it's like, oh, I got you for a loss of 4 because I'm just such a genius. Like, no, I actually screen watched you and I saw what button you hit, and I'm also just slicker than, that's what it was like with Connor Stalions. Except it was real life, and this is real people, and real people lost their jobs. So it's going to be fascinating to see how this all goes down, because I think it's going to be I think it's impossible. It's impossibly arrogant to make a Netflix documentary in the middle of an investigation. And again, when people are like, "Well, what's the timeline, Kirk? When's this going to happen in Nevada? When's the hammer going to fall?" I'm like, well, I'm sure if I'm the NCAA, like, well, I at least want to see what this documentary is going to say. See, because again, it's like a cross examination. Because you remember, Connor Stalions didn't talk to the NCAA. He said, "Nope, I'm gone. Catch you on the flip. It's all good." But he's going to sing like canary to Netflix. They're going to pay him. Like the NCAA, when they interview you for an investigation, they're not going to pay you, but Netflix is going to pay him. So, we're going to see what's going to happen. Again, if I'm running this investigation, let's hold our horses right here. Let's see what this documentary. Let's see what it says. Let's see how that body language looks. Let's see what they hide. Let's see the whole thing. Because why wouldn't you? I mean, they've already gone on for 9 months. Why wouldn't you not drone on for a little bit longer and make sure that you get all your ducks in a row? Because again, the NCAA has the eyes of the world on them right now, between college football coaches, league commissioners, people in the Big Ten, athletic directors. So they want to get this right. And again, if it's, hey, let's accrue a little bit more evidence, then away we go. Because again, if I'm running this thing and I find out that this thing's coming out in late August, I'm like, well, let's hold our horses. We've kind of come to a decision, but let's see what this thing says. Because I can't imagine any scenario where Connor Stalions comes out of this thing looking better than he went into it. And again, I could be wrong, Nevada. Again, I've been wrong before, and if I'm wrong, I'll own it. You guys can point and say, Kirk, you're wrong. But I've seen, the Bishop Sycamore documentary, which is on HBO, which you guys should all watch. Watch it and tell me if Roy Johnson and Jay Richardson and all these guys who are a part of it, ask if they were, did they look better before it or after it? Because after it, I watched it and it's like you got to take like 5 showers because it was so bad. They were so dishonest. They were such horrible people. They did those kids, and guess what? They got paid. They got paid by HBO. So guess what's going to happen? They're going to do it again. They're going to do it with Hulu and Netflix. Like I've already got the story. They want me to do the whole, hey, can you interview us and talk about us? I was like, I don't really want to. I mean, they approached me and I'm like, it's not really my gig, because I'm not into the gig of you guys lying and scamming these poor kids who have hopes of being Division I football players one day. And you say, oh, well, come to this prep school in Ohio and live in a Motel 6 and go to online classes and you have a chance to get recruited. It's a clown car, but I'm telling you, they're gonna run it back. I've already got I got the full download last week. So, all right, Nevada, we gonna get you out of here. Your final thoughts?
No, just appreciate everybody being here. Come join us at BuckeyeScoop.com. You want some more extensive coverage of Ohio State sports, but we appreciate you, and we'll see you tomorrow night.
Thank you all. Appreciate you guys kicking it with us tonight. A little bit early tonight, but I appreciate you. We got a little bit of a commitment this afternoon. So again, if you guys enjoyed this content, please leave us a like, click subscribe. Also click that little alert bell. Again, I appreciate you guys for being on here. And thank you for the super chats. Thank you for the great chat. It was lit. It was festive. Again, I appreciate all that you guys do. We'll be back at 7 tomorrow, per usual. But again, thank you guys so much. Again, this is a huge show because you guys make it one. We've smashed every number known to man, all because of you guys. So thank you so much, Buckeye Nation, and thank you, Scoop family. We're going to talk to you guys tomorrow at 7 p.m., ready to go. Again, subscribe to us on Apple, subscribe to us on Spotify, and, of course, on YouTube. And leave us a 5-star review. I hope you guys have a great night. Go Bucks.